about their irrational behavior, to stop scorning what they offer by way of compensation, not to mention refusing to accept divine advice. So no one is surprised to find you again at the bottom of the incline, attempting to lean into empty air, working up a sweat over nothing but your fantasies. Naked to the toes, body bruised, eyes and ears gone dim, ego shriveled and scarred, leaning into the void this time of your own existence. All you will find there is the resistance of imagination, but again, you pour perspiration into places invisible and inconceivable, and once again, time and space hesitate. The gods fall silent in your presence, cease their mockery, and listen. I'm going to proceed right into the next poem without any introduction because it's self-explanatory. It's called Junk Wars. I'm no junkie, but there's something going on in my veins, making me high, swirling brains in that egg pan, cooking me up like dead meat. Some kind of junk has invaded me, found its way into my system. Must be an onslaught of airborne disease pouring down from distant skies, from all that smoke. Or could it just be unimagined lies coming in through the eardrum, sounding like death in the veins, taking us high, aiming us like bullets or bombs, toxic bombs at innocent targets? Can't you feel it? Using our minds as suicide missiles to drown out the cries of the infidel. Feel those lightning explosions? Eliminate the enemy, make us richer, more land, cheaper labor, oil. The cheapest junk available streams at us like laser breath through electronic needles drilling into our senses, slipping like stealth sex cleaner than condoms into consciousness. Our connections on nightly news dispense the dope we need. Distortions and lies strung out in snorting lines. Christ cooked up in crack pipes. Sucked up like patriotism. Inhaled with the deadly propaganda of silk suits droning into Foxy, CNN, microphones. I'm no stoner, but I'm tripping high on holy war. High above the battleground, into the stratosphere over Baghdad, cooking up my works over Palestine in flames, smoldering coals in Yemen, Philippine, and Indonesian fire pits, the Congo and Sudan, Colombia, Venezuela, India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, all coming to a rolling boil, getting me high. I'm no junkie, but I have a junkie vision. Rulers of a global empire are cooking up a monster, a massive overdose of profit from human misery, passing the needle, finding their own forearms pulsing with the planet's richest blood, probing, locating the death vein, taking us all along for the plunge. She's a writer, and she also has spent a lot of her time in France, so there are certain references to that in the poem. I call it ex nihilo, which means in Latin, from nothing, out of nothing. And the concept of the divine creation out of nothing is I'm applying to this, to my daughter. Feeling nothing, being nowhere, that is always the impossible beginning of her artistry. When time is all there is, hanging in the window like a knotted curtain, a habit learned in France to let in some ever-changing light on the hot days, watching the light move beyond the threshold of the room, revealing a barely perceptible tremor of loquat leaves, the animistic drama of an excitable thrush foraging in nesting season, watched from the ground by a house cat. A drama of furry ears twitching, ruffling feathers, tiny bits of yellow fruit tumbling from a tree. All she can think of, the years in France, are the moments of feeling nothing, the meaning of being nowhere, and the hunters in autumn trying to lure thrushes into their gun sights. Understanding so soon after adolescence that the limelight of youth had tied her into knots, left her suspended in golden gray light, resistant to the billowing cold of the Mistral, resistant to the herald of winter, driving leaves from vineyards and orchards, carrying neither her nor the thrush to safety. Today, she is still not safe from the anxieties of animals and fruited trees, and that is the impossible beginning of her art, to perceive the barely perceptible movement of the curtain, the scatter of fruit from the bird's beak, and to trace the lines of nothing and nowhere onto her page. This is about love and the moon. Everybody knows about love and the moon, especially poets. Between love and the waning moon. This feels like love sinking, vertigo falling, an osprey driving, disappearing below the horizon disappearing, a beautiful last goodbye, leaving me behind, an old moon rising, leaving me alone, waning. This reminds me of Aquinas looking for first causes, failing to fulfill the void with a single deity, falling absurdly into existence like sunfall, like a sundown saint, falling out of time's new moon darkness to earth's ground, in the way of the dark, left alone with starlight, feeling like a storm, the way clouds get in the way of all light, lost in time for just an interval of distinction between ourselves unfounded and nothing, and you, never precisely lost, because everywhere is an abyss, just an interval of distinction between one thing and another thing, between love and the waning moon. Thank you very much.
Okay. How are you going here?
Hello.
Good evening, Sacred Grounds. For my spot, I was gonna let you guys recover. Oh. Let me check on that. Good. Still look good.
You might want to reset it.
Okay, let me reset it. Sorry about that.
Oh man, I'm so
Little
sorry.
technical thing. Oh, it's okay. I got it at a garage sale for $1.50.
Yeah, right.
$1.75. Come on. I was there. No.
It was my garage.
Oh, yeah, that would be a problem.
All right.
I do hope we have sound on this tonight. Okay, I was going to read two Don Brennan poems, but this afternoon I turned out to have written a poem for Don, so I'm going to read one of mine about Don and then one of Don's. And I'm going to do it quickly because I know Mr. Time over here can't see. So, this one is mine. It's for Don Brennan. It's Medicine Man from a Nearby Tribe. He was a medicine man from a nearby tribe. All of the members of the council knew him, some for many, many years. Among the white-haired elders, he was the white-haired elder, even though he had no discernible hair on top at all. When the time came, he was the first of the elders of the sacred grounds whom I asked to ponder the imponderable, a modern-day reflection of the old Indian councils about what to do about the coming of the white man. Just look at the titles of some of his poems. He was good at titles. Quoting ravens, between love and the waning moon, Junk Wars, Village Sisyphus, Ex Nihilo, The Meditation Tree, Questions for Pablo, Brighter Tomorrows, The Deacon, Anger Management, The Jaguar's Eye, Game Days, An Empty Mindful, Waiting for the Dusty Yard, For the Life of Goats, Resuscitating Dragons, and Hey Bro. The list went on, but he didn't. None of us will, eventually. All we can do is gather all the medicine men and women together, each of us reaching for our strongest self to take on our additional share of the world that he has been lifting like Atlas. And this is a Don Brennan poem called An Empty Mindful. I will bear myself in my own arms if you will simply explain how we have come to find ourselves surrounded by children of toddling age, demanding justice when they can barely utter anything more significant than all of the confounding mysteries that neither of us has ever been able to comprehend, and then leave it to us to fathom the uncharted depths of their unaccountable laughter that cries for mercy. How do they do that? And who do they think they are anyway? Barely able to run around at the level of our ankles and knees, judging us without even knowing what questions to ask. I therefore promise to bear you and me together with the lot of them in my sagging and weary arms, and agree to cease my whining and complaining immediately, as soon as we are able to glimpse by looking into our own selves how to put an end to the contemporary and relentless history of random and intolerable suffering of the innocent, thereby allowing all of us to live until we die in peace.
Okay, just so you know, I'm going to